And what is any life if not the pursuit of a dream?
What if the dream became a nightmare?
Of course, your subconscious can always play tricks on you. The subconscious is a very powerful thing.
My dreams are a cruel joke. They taunt me. Even in my dreams, I'm an idiot who knows he's about to wake up to reality. I can only avoid sleep. And I can't. I try to tell myself what to dream. I try to dream that I'm flying. Something freeing. It never works. I want to live a real life. I don't want to dream any longer.
Heresy shouldn't be this much fun. Pure spiritual adrenaline fun when you're locked in gaze with perdition in an alley or in some other personal Armageddon.
This is where we hold them! This is where we fight! This is where they die!
However, it's also the Wild West under an unforgiving sunset and its tyrant black old suns. Endless with the deserts of the real, hidden minds pregnant with alchemical gold, painted-faced aeons and their wise medicine, moon goddesses with Isis kisses, mirages of strip malls and Dr. Phil infomercials, and trigger-happy archons who will blow your sanity and individuality away and into a wooden coffin of wasted potentials.
What would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing that you did mattered?
Now that sums it up for me.
So don't blink and don't leave your eye from the invisible evils and the helpful animal totems. Okay, let me try and stop mixing and mangling metaphors and half-remembered memories. Back to the pulsar revolution that is Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio, broadcast from the virtual Alexandria through the God above God.can. Some things are better left unsaid, but you know damn well this is the one place where they will be said. And we draw quick and we shoot accurately. Like George Orwell said, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. We don't take prisoners but liberate them. We are not the final authority on anything, but hope to be an endless possibility for everything. We are not here to make a better world, but better inner worlds, so you can find the mystery that works for you and only you. We are not bigoted, but simply like to stereotype, to be politically correct. And we are the bane of political correctness and hypocrisy too, you know.
Do not panic! Do not panic! We are trained professionals!
As for you, you are revolutionaries in the becoming if you are listening to this podcast instead of being distracted by the Zimmerman case or other P.T. Barnum decoys. Back to Orwell. He also declared that speaking the truth in times of universal deceit is a revolutionary act. I think we can all agree the deceit of these times has reached the size of a literal universe, or at least
A whale's vagina.
And as Gnostics, lovers of the esoterica, and Dionysian freethinkers, truth in all its prisms is what we crave and fight to embody. For it is the true vitamin and tonic to nurture our plasmate, the living and latent gnosis within each one of us that can open the doors of our perception and the doors of our intended destinies. Like Jesus says in Matthew 13:35, I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. We are the lords of deconstruction, the revenge of the myth upon our oppressors, and the word made on flesh. We are the spiritual, rebellious descendants of Norea and Seth. After all, it was Seth, but Seth Godin, who said, Revolutions enable the impossible at the same time they destroy the perfect. And it was Harold Bloom who said the central dictum of the Gnostics was and always will be, that which can be broken must be.
In the absence of light, darkness prevails. There are things that go bump in the night, and we are the ones who bump back.
Furthermore, in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus, or maybe a channeling Archie Bunker, states, "Do you think I come to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on, there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother." I agree with the great Jesuit priest, Anthony de Mello, who said that if you take this passage literally, you're no better than the nutsack of Atlas.
What is your major malfunction, numbnuts?
Christ is basically saying it's time to turn over the tables of old structures, antiquated systems, credit-lending cartels lorded by the establishment and the very rulers of this world themselves. Time to find our higher self, join a metaphysical fight club, and, holding the hands of Mary Magdalene, collapse the Babel antennas and skyscrapers that fill our heads with the lullaby voice of consumerism and mediocrity.
If we're planning to appeal to the better angels of their nature, we better have a backup plan. In case reason is not sufficient to the cause.
The Gnostic Jesus and St. Paul are even more radical, and it's time we lords of deconstruction and the revenge of the myth become as radical as possible without acting like Berkeley douchebags, emo demigods, or Breitbart gorillas. The classic Gnostics were about parody and paranoia and plotting to change the plot of the story humanity was in. But they were subtle, as they were always fiercely compassionate. It all sounds really lollipop, my beloved truth seekers, but let's stop making excuses and let's start making them fear us. They want us to turn the other cheek so they can stick it in further up our bums.
I've never been that drunk, and I've never been that desperate.
We will hand them our cloaks, filthy with the same lice of poisoned foods and entertainment they have given us for lifetimes. Returning to the Gnostic sage W.B. Yeats, he said time was the only enemy, and Blake said time is the mercy of eternity.
Is this how time normally passes? Really slowly. In the right order.
In between, we must hurry out to battle the Mordreds and their Fifth Avenue golden castles. And feel free to play the Carmina Burana if it makes you feel stronger. Like Jesus says in the secret book of James, "And as long as I am with you, give heed to me and obey me. But when I depart from you, remember me, because when I was with you, you did not know me." Seems to happen to many departed we love beyond Jesus, doesn't it? Anywho, Teddy Roosevelt proffered, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing.
Years from now, they're going to ask us, where were you when they took over the planet? And we're going to say, we just stood by and watched.
And who balmier to lead you than Abraxas in his mortal incarnation of Miguel Connor? Who better than the incarnate Beatrice or Virgil as you struggle through the cyber-insensible infernos and purgatories that are nothing but the inceptions planted in you by the greedy billionaires entertaining their sociopathic, genocidal fantasies?
So, Guru, enlighten us. What is your plan?
Frankly, this is completely unexpected and I'm scared shitless.
Okay, maybe Clint Eastwood as No Name would be better. But I've got both the keys of Gnosis and the keys to the Gran Torino in my pocket. And I'm also happy to see you. I am your apothecary, handing freely those vitamins, tonics, and secrets to activate your plasmate so you can become a homoplasmate, a secret revolutionary Christian who sees beyond the hologram of the empire. Oh, and I also do children's parties and bar mitzvahs and so forth, with a sliding scale depending on how hot the MILF is or how stocked up your medicine cabinet is. But the children love my rooster head, snake legs, and the madness I bring about, because to them it still makes more sense than the perverse world of adults.
I got a whole freezer full of popsicles.
You like movies about gladiators?
Here at the Virtual Alexandria, Aeon Gnostic Radio has forged the tools and weapons for our revolution. In this episode, we hammer out an important one. After all, being in a state of grace, centered in spirit, fortified in aura, and with chakras shining like C-3PO's testicles, are essential when we go out to melee the Mordreds and their Fifth Avenue golden castles.
You will be a weapon. You will be a minister of death, praying for war.
To put it another way, prayer, as well as ritual, or reenacting the myth as Joseph Campbell called it, are two of the greatest BFGs you can carry around when facing the icons of evil and his minions.
Devils! Blasphemers! Pray to your heathen god, while in the Lord's name we cast you out.
So skillfully doing one of my famous lead-ins, let us welcome our astral guest and good friend back on this April 21st, the year of our Demiurge 2012. And this is Jeremy Puma, author of This Way, Making Sense of Gnosis in a Nonsensical Reality, Mysteries of the Gnostic Ascent, and The Face of the Sky and Earth. Jeremy has laureated us in past shows to discuss the Gospel of Tommy, Philip K. Dick, the problem of modern Gnosticism, and Gnosis without Gnosticism, all easily found in our archive of past shows. Now he comes to discuss his latest Jehovah castrating new book, a Gnostic prayer book, rites, rituals, prayers, and devotions.
What's going on? I gotta get my Bible before somebody's gotta start praying.
You can find many of his fire-bright articles at his blog, jeremypuma.wordpress.com, and that is Puma. For the first time in modernity, a Gnostic prayer and ritual manual has been released that leapfrogs medieval and revival Gnosticism. Taking decades of research, Jeremy not only directly taps the ass of the classic Gnostics, like the Sethians and the Valentinians, he places each practice in a topical, categorized, and organized manner that is both universal and approbate to contemporary society.
You are the reason I still have faith.
A Gnostic prayer book ranges from Thanksgiving orations to healing benedictions, regardless of how literal or psychological you may take them. Its rituals include the consecration of new homes, baptism and funerary situations, and even the crafting of Christian magical instruments. Again, regardless of how literal or psychological you may take them. It even offers a plausible reconstruction of the arduous yet puissant mysteries of the Ascent and the Sethian Five Seals ceremony that can take an individual up the arcanic heavens and into the mind of the unknown Father and Mother.
What happens when a man goes through his own portal?
We'll see.
There's obviously a lot of gaps to be filled because of Winner's photoshopping history. Nonetheless, you'll see how Jeremy wisely solved that problem in our interview and remained loyal to the ethos of the ancient heretics. In our gassing, we furthermore understand the unique view of the Gnostics and other alternative Christians when it came to prayer and sacrament, comparing and contrasting them to other Orthodox and heterodox religions.
Dear tiny Jesus, your golden fleece diapers with your tiny little fat balled up fist pawing.
He was a man. He had a beard.
Look, I like the baby version the best. Do you hear me?
Sure. June Singer's Sublime, A Gnostic Book of Hours, or Stephen Heller's A Fool's Pilgrimage, several Wheelwright and indie tomes, and some Gospel of Thomas books not deflowered by New Age greed are inspirational, but lack the almanac sensibility or chutzpah of Jeremy's new work.
Any last wishes?
Let them out there read my mind.
This is the Aeon Byte interview, and with us we have the pleasure of having back my friend and fellow lay scholar, truth seeker, Jeremy Puma, to discuss his new book, A Gnostic Prayer Book, Rites, Rituals, Prayers, and Devotions. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing quite well, and yourself?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for coming on Aeon Byte, and don't get too nervous. I don't think you'll be able to beat Andrew Phillips Smith when it comes to guests, so...
That's true.
But we love having you on.
Outnumber me by now.
Yeah, as long as he keeps putting the Gnostic Journal and all these other books, he's there. But it's great having you back on. That's for sure.
It's always fun to be on. Thanks for having me, as always. And congratulations on the new fatherhood as well. Something we both currently share.
Yes, we do. It's it's seeing the world through new eyes, except the eyes of sleep. That's the one thing.
That is right.
So anyway, Jeremy, what was your reasoning in publishing a Gnostic prayer book? I mean, after all, we have the Da Vinci prayer book, and that's the Gnostic code on these types of books, right? I mean, how could you top that?
Isn't that a great question? I'm not even really as familiar with the Da Vinci prayer book as I probably should be to answer to that question. That is a pen by Jordan Stratford, I believe, around the time of the popularity of the Da Vinci Code. I don't know, I think a lot of the Gnostic material out there is very impractical for the person who is independent and individual, who doesn't necessarily want to be involved with the modern, quote, Gnosticism, unquote, movement. And I think that there's kind of a dearth out there of material that's practical, that you can actually sit down. There's plenty of stuff about the Gnostics and whatever it is that we call Gnosticism now. But to really be a practitioner of it, there's really not a lot out there. So, the last two I did, the one before this, which was called This Way, and this one in particular, were my attempts to sort of give the framework for my own personal practical approach to the Gnostic path in the modern setting, as it were.
But as you say, Jeremy, it is pretty much impossible to recreate what the classic Gnostics were doing. It's too fragmented, and it's too broken. You really just have to go in there and do the best you can, right?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. There can be no one-to-one reproduction of what they did. Unfortunately, a lot of the texts that we have were tossed into fires or decayed over time, or are sitting rotting in the stall in Cairo's marketplace, or so there's really no way for us to ever have anything more than stabs in the dark at what the original Gnostic groups were doing. I still think that for myself and for a number of people, it's what they believed is pretty much what we believe as well, unless we are willing to sort of while we're willing to acknowledge the limitations of the historical material, as long as we're honest about it, I think that we can use that material as an inspiration or jumping off point for our own personal practice.
And before we really get into a Gnostic prayer book, why don't we get into the concept of prayer? Because it's one of those things, it seems, we all take for granted and seem to agree on, which of course is not true. It is not a theological singularity. What did prayer mean to the classic Gnostics and perhaps early Christians that perhaps separated them from the other religions? And what does prayer mean to you personally, Jeremy?
Well, let me start off with what it means to me personally, and then I can follow into or lead into the other question that you asked. Personally, for me, it is a way to interact with the sublime. I know that there's a lot of talk about the importance of ritual, and in a way, prayer is some prayers are intended to ritualize the sacred in the individual life. But for me, it's a way to interact with the sublime and stay connected with whatever it is in the world that's deeper than the peripheral, if that makes sense. I know deeper than the peripheral is kind of a strange way of thinking of it. But, if you think about peripheral vision and, that which is always out of sight, something even deeper than that.
Yeah, but it must be pretty hard because you quote the Gospel of Matthew, and I've always loved that quote where if you're going to pray, don't be Tim Tebow, go into a room and do it quietly where nobody knows, where you're not showing off like the Pharisees or, your usual sports star. But at the same time, then there's this beauty of like Paul and 500 see Jesus and they're chanting. And so it's kind of hard to know which way to go, or do we just kind of go in the middle?
Well, I don't think that. I think I'm probably a radical Matthew 6-6er as far as prayer. It even makes me uncomfortable to pray before the meal with the family, which I'll do. I do. I think that that's a valid, good place to do it. But when it comes to actual personal prayer, I really do think that the quieter you are about it, the more valuable it can be. I was at a burger joint the other night, and right in the middle of this crowded restaurant, there was a table of 7 or 8 earnest young Christians who made a very public display of holding their hands together and praying over the burger that they were going to eat. And it's like you don't need to do that in McDonald's or wherever there's really no reason
to survive the meal, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. No, I think that I don't want to call people out on it. I think that there can be sublimity and value in even the expressions of modern Christianity that people are so quick to disdain. But I think that it's more powerful for you if you are doing it as part of your internal activation of your internal of the plasmate, as Philip K. Dick might say. Prayer activates the plasmate within you. It acknowledges and expands upon the living information that's already in there, and allows to prayer. Perhaps here's a good way of looking at it: tuning a radio dial. I think it's like tuning a radio dial. When you're praying, when you're being prayerful, you're tuning into a wavelength that isn't available during typical mundane interaction with the way you typically wouldn't interact with this tune into this wavelength while you're at a burger joint, as an example.
So we can say that the classic Gnostics, they were not praying for the fall of the Roman Empire, or thank God I was born a male and my child may be male, or I hope the iPhone is invented 2,000 years earlier. They were basically doing what we are doing, is thy will be done, and let me make a connection with that alien entity called the unknown Father, right? I
think that there's a very broad spectrum, because there is a lot of stuff from that era that is like, oh gosh, I pray that so-and-so gets bitten by a snake, or I pray that I'm able to find some treasure, or, I pray that I can, of course, find a relationship with someone, or, there's a lot of prayer is anytime you give someone the opportunity to petition for something they feel they deserve, and tell them that it might help them get it, then they'll find a way to ask for the basest, most material, I mean, that stuff's out there for sure, even with the ancients, among the Christians and those who were the Gnostics at the time, etc.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised because, the Sethians assumed that there was no free will, and the first job was, the Valentinians too, was the first job is to break the bonds of the astral lords. I mean, no matter what they ask you and you get, you're still trapped within the zodiac. So I would assume the first task is get up to heavens and defeat and get past those archons.
Sure, but then you have the whole idea that the archons could be prayed to. But I mean, they do control the world of forms, so you could technically pray to the archons for the more base things that you wanted.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to pray to the unknown god for $1 million, but maybe you pray to the archons for it. They're the ones who are in control of that kind of thing. I mean, that's purely speculation on my part.
Well, they had the amulets. I mean, they obviously wanted something from these gods or these entities. So,
and the Secret Book of John, it listed all of the in the long version, the quote from the Book of Zoroaster, with all the archons of the body. The unknown god didn't make the bodies, but the archons did, and so we could pray to them to heal the body that they made. It's levels, layers upon layers upon layers. Again, this is all pure speculation, but it's a reasonable way to look at it, I think.
And of course, you also are part of the Buddhist worldview. How do the Buddhists see prayer, and did it inform the writing of your new book?
Again, which Buddhists?
Yeah, exactly.
You have, pure land Buddhists who, just repeat the name of Amida Buddha, and that's, part of that's their main prayerful practice. You have some groups of Buddhists who would pray to their personal guru or human teacher. You have the chants of the Zen Buddhists. My personal understanding of Buddhism has more to do with their practices of the awakening event, the contemplation, the meditation, or where that might intersect with Christian contemplative prayer, for instance, in like the Cloud of Unknowing, or the works of Dionysius, pseudo-Dionysius. It's finding that inner stillness, and I think that prayer can actually be a vehicle towards doing it. I think that there's technology built into certain prayer sequences. For instance, the Gnostic Ascent, the Mysteries of the Gnostic Ascent, that's designed to use prayer as a vehicle for ascending through the eons, the layers of reality, or the layers of psychology, or whatever interpretation you put on it, in order to climb this ladder to find an inner stillness, and then, of course, descend back through the spheres, back into this crappy little world of forms we all exist in.
Okay, and I guess this all, of course, begs two questions, and they're not even that related, but I'm going to throw them out anyway. What what's the difference between prayer and magic? You know that old saying, we practice religion, they practice magic. And the second one is, you have used all the prayers in this book, right?
Yes, I have. I can't say I've used all of the rites, as a matter of fact, but I have used all of the prayers for sure. I hope to use all of the rites someday. I feel as though that's something I can get away with because they're I don't want to say they're inspired works from a spiritual standpoint, but they'll work. The prayers, though, I have used, pretty much every single one. Back to the other question you had.
Prayer and magic, what's the difference?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, so I think, with prayer, a lot of prayer is I think a lot of magic is, are we going by Crowley's definition of magic as, basically any act or act of will, or are we going with, like, the Theurgists who wanted to use magic to, physically self-identify with the gods, or are we talking about, the base kind of magic where you want to make money by praying to angels, say?
Exactly.
I think it really depends upon how it's being used. I think I think that there are some lines that are certainly blurred. I think a lot of the prayer that is more, basically, that doesn't ask for anything, that isn't intended to cause major changes within the structure of one's life or reality, like prayers of thanksgiving, which are very prominent in the Gnostic literature. I don't know that I would consider prayers of thanksgiving magic per se, because I see magic as something that's intended to cause an irrational effect within the world of forms, whereas prayer I see as more something that is intended to transcend the world of forms. I think those things can be the same thing.
That's very well said. And have these prayers, have they worked for you? Because some, like you mentioned, the prayer of Gnostic ascent, which is this very baroque and probably very arduous prayer that takes a long time and takes you up to the spheres. And I'm sure you didn't use any magical mushrooms or entheogens when you did it. Plus you have, I believe in healing powers. I think they are people who are natural healers, but you also have prayers and rituals for healing. Have you had success with these prayers?
Yeah, personal. And just for the record, I actually I have never been involved with any entheogen use. Not my personal choice. I mean, it was my personal choice to do that. It's not my personal preferred method of attaining spiritual enlightenment. But the Gnostic ascent. Well, we know that there was ascent practice done in the communities of that era, even to there's a lot of like apocalyptic Judaism. There's ascent prayers, Kabbalah ascending through the spheres of the Tree of Life. I'm trying to think of it. There's lots more. The Theurgic ones, the heretics who were talking about it.
Yeah, everyone was doing it. Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of that, and I think that it's useful as almost a meditative practice. But also I see it as, I don't see it as any more arduous than like praying out the full rosary.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that when my wife makes me do it. Yeah, it's arduous, but you go to some interesting places.
Well, right, yeah, that's the thing, is that it's a way to focus. It's almost like a guided meditation or a guided visualization, using the language and technology of the Gnostics. Oh, I was going to say, so it's whatever you make of it. And then the healing, I do always, of course, make it a point to say that, I have a lot of faith in modern science and modern medicine. I know, in some people's eyes, that'll make me a bad Gnostic, but I think that healing prayers and such work as long as you see a doctor too.
Exactly.
Because again, the healing that we're going for here is something that is that transcends the world of forms. It's not like, ow, I got a cut, I better pray to heal this up. It's more like, what is there that is out there within reality beyond the archons that could help me heal, along with the more mundane modern scientific approach.
And Jeremy, did you have any sort of specific criteria in finding these prayers? I know, for example, you have a ritual of the apple, which came to you in a dream, and you included it in your book. But was there a criteria? Is this something that through Gnosis you kind of felt your way throughout the years? Because some prayers I know you've modified, some are directly from the Nag Hammadi, some are a kind of a mashup of different prayers of different scriptures. What was the criteria again?
Well, I wanted it to be inspired by material that I consider Gnostic or related to material from that era. For instance, the Greek magical papyrus have a lot of really powerful passages that I think work well as prayers. But my main criteria is I wanted to find something that somebody who is in the middle of Jim Bob, Oklahoma, who has no idea what the actual modern Gnostic movement and groups are doing out there, or could actually pick up and use every day. I think that a lot of the current religious traditions, name any of them, and you'll find prayer books written for them that a lot of people take great comfort in and are able to use because they have them. Well, look at the Book of Common Prayer, for goodness sakes. That's got a prayer in there for everything. And I didn't feel as though there was something that was similar out there for Gnostics. I mean, there are some great books out there that include Gnostic prayers. There's the Gnostic Book of Hours, the June Singer, and that's a nice one. But it doesn't really have, in a large part too, I think, back to what I was discussing earlier, my wife and her family have always prayed before meals. And it's never been a practice of mine regularly. It hadn't until I, married her. And I think it's great. I really do value praying before meals with the family, but there was no simple, specifically Gnostic prayer to say before meals out there. So I came up with one. And I thought, maybe other people would find this useful, so I put it in the book. I just want something that people can use, individual Gnostics or people who are just interested in Gnosticism without any sort of attachment to any other religious organization, or with attachment to it.
Your book, like you said, the Gnostic Book of Hours. I think Heller has his the book, the Fool's Pilgrimage, has all these prayers. But you actually hit it very nicely because they're all topical. You've got a prayer to consecrate your house before you move into a house, and then you have the serious ones. Prayer for those who have died, children, the sick. So you pretty much hit the whole range, except, like I said, you have no prayer to get the archons out of your computer when it freezes up, or when the internet goes down, or something like that, or to turn the light red from green or something.
The next edition, I will have a prayer to the archons of the internet.
Yeah, I think they're the most powerful ones. I don't know about those, but
yeah, and I think that would actually fall under the magic category, actually.
For the listener, and a lot of people probably don't know this, you write a lot about, quote, barbarous words. What should anyone reading your works, or really any Gnostic work, understand about barbarous words? What are they?
So barbarous words are words that are included in a number of the ancient texts, the Nag Hammadi library and the Greek magical papyrus, that really don't have an understandable meaning per se. And they're often repeated from text to text to text. And I feel, so there's a couple of different beliefs. One of them is that, there's a lot of translation going on, and back in that era, there would be a lot of mistranslation, and so these barbarous words might actually be corruptions of words from like 3 translations ago that have come to be given this sort of power and this are included. There's another school of thought that says that, they actually do have these sort of astrological meanings. If you look at the old theories of in the Greek and Roman world of like vowel combinations, and there's one text in the Nag Hammadi library in particular called Marsenes that actually talks about, it's very fragmented, but it talks about constructing these barbarous names with the vowel and consonant combinations and the different powers that they might have. Somebody's trying to contact me. Pardon that.
Could it be the Pleroma?
It's a barbarous name.
Yeah.
No, but I actually opt to include them because I feel as though they add an element of mystery that can help connect the person who is speaking them a little more deeply with the sublime. they might not mean anything. I mean, as I was telling a friend of mine once, we might be reading the names of different condiments in, ancient Linear B or something like that. But it would have the same effect because, we don't know. And I think the point is that I want to include them, and they're not in everything. They're there, I think, when I want to instill a deeper sense of profundity. That being said, like I think that the linguistic structure is important, but I am an opponent of the thee and thou school of prayer, of modern actually any sort of modern religious speak. I think that the more flowery thee, thou, biblical King James style speech stands between the person who's praying and their ability to perceive the sublime, whereas the barbarous words, because they're not attempts at making something more flowery, they just sit there. They're there. They are sort of signposts to something mysterious. They can actually strengthen the connection between the individual and the sublime.
It also should be noted, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the hub of your book is obviously the Sethians, and then you basically go out for them, right? Because, I read your introduction, I've obviously read your last book, and we both agree very much with David Brackey, you and I. But then I was reading the prayers, and I'm like, oh my God, there's this thing, Eucharist, and it's Valentinian. What is Jeremy doing? So,
right.
So you basically have the hub and sort of these satellite Christian groups that borrowed from them.
Right. Yeah. I definitely. That's why I say they're inspired by. Yes, the Sethians definitely, because I do believe that the Sethians. I find Brackey's case very convincing that the Sethians were the Gnostics, and I think that the original Gnostic myth that we're all so fond of, with the fall of Sophia and the archons and the demiurge, I do think that the Sethians were the ones who really made that myth their own, regardless of its origin, and really explicated it more than the other groups. However, like the compiler of the Nag Hammadi library, I think that there's valuable material that we can apply from the Valentinian works, the Hermetic works. At the root, it's definitely Sethian. But given that this is a prayer book for modern audiences, and given that modern audiences find great value in, for instance, Eucharistic practice, I thought it would be nice to have the option there. I mean, I also find value in the Eucharistic practice as well. As did Philip K. Dick, another inspiration. But like we said, there can't be a one-to-one, and that's what I think is important to acknowledge, is that these are not prayers that are from the Sethians, that were used by the Sethians. They're inspired by. There are portions of them that are directly from the material, redacted slightly and with the these and thous removed. But there's also, for instance, in the chrism that I put in there, which, as you've noted, is a Valentinian practice very much. But I think that I actually add Philbickian language in there and talk about the plasmate and the homoplasmate, because that's sort of the modern direction that I think is valid for the Gnostic. I think you can be a little playful with the material and go exploring and add and subtract, and as long as you're honest about it and don't say this is what the Gnostics did.
Right, for sure, because again, we will never truly know until we get into a TARDIS or something like that. We just don't know.
Exactly.
And Jeremy, tell us about the Amulet of Healing the Sick. You have a Gnostic prayer book that anyone can make, as well as other things, other objects that fall, I guess, into the very obscure Christian magic category.
Well, the amulet for the sick, I think that I think that there's, again, I wanted to give people sort of a spectrum of things, and I think that some people would find great this is actually something I've used, this amulet, and it was originally that I found it in the book, the wonderful book, Ancient Christian Magic, by who was it? Marvin Meyer and Richard Smith edited it together, and it's a collection of Coptic texts from various sources from the Sethian era. And they include this amulet, and I always just found it very stirring and very mysterious. And I think that if you are the kind of person who benefits from having some sort of object and imbuing it with some sort of positive quality, using prayer to sort of activate it, then you might find value in this amulet. I have, so I included it.
But like you said, you have the rituals and you've got you put objects and when to cross yourself, all that. But like you said, if this guy is in Oklahoma and he's in the middle of the Bible Belt and Benny Hinn is down the street, it's okay just to wing it with just the prayers. You're not telling people you got to have object A, B, and C.
No, absolutely not. And, and again, a lot of that also comes into the, hopefully if this guy's walking down the street and he's inspired to use this book, he'll keep, Matthew 6:6 in there in mind and won't go out there and say, hey, check this out. I'm making this amulet. Yeah,
I can heal you. Yeah, and we can hang
exactly.
you.
Right. Yeah, these are all for the individual using it, There's, obviously anything in there could be modified for a collective or a group, but I really wanted to make this something that would be used by the individual person practicing at home, who may even be part of a mainstream organization of some other kind, who just wanted to have, the family comes over and they ask him to pray before dinner, and he's a Gnostic and isn't comfortable doing the Southern Baptist version of the prayer, and so he has the Gnostic one now. Or a Gnostic one, not the Gnostic one, of course.
Then he can blow them away because he can do the prayer of St. Paul, and they'll be like, what?
Right.
Where are you getting this from? I also found it very interesting, Jeremy, is that you tackle the enigmatic Sethian sacrament of the Five Seals that we both know has baffled scholars for decades. What were you thinking, man? What were you thinking?
Oh, I was just thinking, this has baffled scholars for decades. It will never actually probably have it, but isn't that a shame? Like, why can't we, come up with what might have been an approximation? And there are a number of scholarly works that guess at it. The best, in my opinion, coming from John Turner. And one of the biggest, or one of the most convincing guesses, and again, in my opinion, is that the Five Seals were to seal the five senses, sort of. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, the hands, So I thought, wouldn't it be neat to have a ritual where you become sort of initiated into, self-initiated into the Gnostic spirit by altering, changing, or transforming your five senses somehow. So, each seal deals with one of the senses, totally historically inaccurate, I'm sure. And, probably someday we'll find something about the Five Seals, and it'll be something totally off base, different entirely, have to do with actual seals or something.
Five caps to open a bottle of beer or something like that.
Or, a seal playing with a ball on a circus.
the clones
platform,
of the singer seal or something like that. Yeah, who knows?
That is actually, it's a mistranslation. It was actually the ritual of the five walruses.
Choo. We got you. So your book, before we get into we start talking about your blog, your book is available in both print and ebook right now on Amazon?
Yeah, it is only in Kindle format right now. I'm just doing it through Amazon because I've succumbed to the fact that Amazon is the winner in the book war currently. And I think it should be available for most people if they are interested in it through Amazon. That being said, obviously if someone is in dire straits and can't afford a copy and wants one, by all means contact me through my website. I don't expect to make any money off of this. In fact, it would almost be disappointing if I did, because the the more I'm becoming, of late I'm becoming that can more and more convince that the more popular something is, the further away from the Gnostic way it is.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's a bitter pill, but it's true.
Yeah, so I'll never become rich of it. It would be great if people would go onto Amazon and search for Gnostic prayer book or search for my name, it'll come up. But, if it's something somebody's interested in and they're in financial dire straits, then, my goodness, contact me and we'll see what we can do.
Well, yeah, we both know in what wonderful financial and healthy states people like Philip K. Dick and William Blake ended up in, so...
Exactly. Right.
We can expect that to be our fate too. So
yep. Yeah. Exactly.
So tell us, Jeremy, about your blog, the address, how people can get it, and what the reader can expect and not expect from your blog this way, which I thoroughly love to read whenever you have something on.
I'm glad. I've just started, blogging more regularly. I went through a very long dry spell, and then I thought, man, this would be cool. I should start writing about this more often. I have a real connection with the material, and there's a lot of stuff I want to say and put out there. And then I had a baby.
That's usually, they interrupt everything. Yeah, life interrupts.
Yeah, exactly, which is fantastic. It's the greatest thing I've ever done. But it doesn't give you much time for. So I'm finally at the point now where I'm sort of ramping up and trying to do a post or two a week. I hope to do at least a post or two a week, hopefully more, maybe longer, maybe shorter, just musings and essays and something, for those of you those 2 or 3 people out there who might have been following what I've been doing for a while, it'll be a little closer to what I had been doing in the past, just musing on thoughts that are Gnostic and non. So, there's a couple of posts on it.
What's
the address is, it's Jeremy Puma. That's JeremyPuma.wordpress.com. And I'm using WordPress.com because it's free.
Exactly. A lot of people do email me, and, I'm not going to say a lot, again, Gnostics, but a considerable amount of people, and ask, I really miss this article from the old palm tree garden as a resource, or blah, blah, blah. Are those gone forever, or what are you doing with those puppies?
My goodness, I certainly wish I still had a good answer to that question. They exist in zip files that are currently. Have you ever read the actual the McDermott translation of the Books of Jew?
Not the Book of Jew, no.
So, it's got these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names of archons and seals and stuff like that it's sort of like the Gnostic Book of the Dead. So, you graze through you ascend through the spheres, but it's voluminous. It's huge. All these seals, all these names. And that's the kind of barriers that are currently keeping us from getting to the archived files of the old palm tree garden.
You got your own heavens to cross, huh? Wow.
Yeah, the archons of the internet have really tied these ones up. They were backed up. The backups were lost. The backups were retrieved. They were in a weird file format. They were opened, but then only half of them were opened. And so, all I can say to those who are interested in the Palm Tree Garden archives is that I am too.
If anybody sees them walking down the street, please.
Let me know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a very normal reality in this day and age. So why don't we talk about, I really love your latest post, The Universe is Gaslighting You. I think your writing was definitely getting tighter and better. And this one really struck me right to the core. So will you tell the listener a little bit about your latest post?
Sure. Well, for those who aren't familiar with the old movie, it was a play, but it's more familiar as a movie. It was made twice, but the one I reference is the better known one with Ingrid Bergman, where it's a woman who her husband is basically contriving to drive her insane by making her think she's insane, and so he does stuff like causes the gas lights to flicker in their house This, of course, is back before there was electric lighting. And, walks around upstairs when she thinks she's alone, so she starts to believe that she's insane, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just thought that was a really neat metaphor for the way I think the universe acts, because, when you're Gnostic and you have the Gnostic realization, we often think of the theodical question of, if God is good, then why does evil exist? The evil we think of is often like sickness or war or famine or disasters, all that kind of thing. But that's obvious. And so I wanted to take a look at some of the smaller stuff, like getting stuck in traffic, or the fact that, like, I have to exercise, or, being forced to go to work functions and meetings that you don't want to go to, that kind of thing, where it's like, oh, the imperfection of the universe can be seen in all these tiny ways, and that's what is slowly, driving you crazy. But once you recognize that fact, and once you see behind the gaslighting that's going on, and you realize that you're not crazy, there's somebody actually causing those lights to flicker, then you can be comfortable in your skepticism, and you can realize that the people who say, like, oh, you always need to, you create your own reality and blah, 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 are wrong. Yeah, so that's sort of what that article discusses in so many words.
Yeah, it's like you said, what do you say? They really are out to get you, and you don't know shit.
Right. But I should underline the fact that I'm not talking about, like, silly conspiracy theories. I think that all of that stuff is a moot point. It's not the New World Order that you should worry about. What you should actually concern yourself about is how annoying it is to you that, the last 3 times you bought a pair of shoelaces and tried to tie your shoes, they broke. It's more insidious than the New World Order.
It's the archons. It's death by 1,000 cuts, and like you said, one day you wake up and you're completely lobotomized and completely bonkers, and you're finished. You're empty. You're not. It doesn't matter who wins the election or who goes to Iran or anything like that. You're done.
Right. Exactly.
Well, I think that's all the time we have today, Jeremy. I'd like to thank you very much again for coming and honoring Aeon Byte and giving us a very stimulating conversation on your new book.
Oh, the honor is always mine.
I certainly recommend people to go out and download a Gnostic prayer book. It will certainly help your daily practice if you are close into that worldview. And like Jeremy just said, if you need a PDF or something else, just shoot him an email. Jeremy and I we truly do these things for altruistic purposes, and our bank accounts can prove it.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Jeremy, great having you on Aeon Byte, and we'll be talking soon.
Sounds fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Well, how do you know that you're walking in the right direction?
I walk by faith, not by sight.
What does that mean?
It means that you know something even if you don't know something.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't have to make sense. It's faith. It's faith. It's the flower of light in the field of darkness. It's giving me the strength to carry on. You understand?
Is that from your book?
No, it's Johnny Cash, live at Folsom Prison.
And there you have it, my beloved truth seekers. Jeremy Puma, once again, giving us that spiritual Viagra from his new book, a Gnostic prayer book, rites, rituals, prayers, and devotions. And ride like Christopher crosses wind, or when he breaks wind, to get his other works. This way, making sense of gnosis in a nonsensical reality, mysteries of the Gnostic ascent, and the face of the sky and the earth. Jeremy has laureated us in past shows to discuss the Gospel of Tommy, Philip K. Dick, the problem of modern Gnosticism, and gnosis without Gnosticism, all easily found in our archive of past shows. You can find many of his fire-bright articles at his blog, Jeremy Puma, that's P-U-M-A, like the cat, WordPress.com. Also, don't forget that, like with any Aeon Byte Gnostic episode, if you've got holes in your pockets, the book will be sent to you if you ping Jeremy. with yet another debonair lead-in, please don't make me give you the "please support Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio" gabble. Things are moving up to a deluxe apartment in the east side of the Canoma. However, most of you are still looking to the old media and the old brainwashing haunts for inserting your shekels in. Some of you are just heroic in your assistance, and I am forever in your gratitude. But considering the many thousands who listen in every week, I have a feeling some of you actually have holes in your heads rather than holes in your pockets. Nobody is getting rich here, as my ancient Adobe Audition 1.5 mixing program, cat-chewed headphones, and venerable Power Grammo recording software can attest. Like I've said, if every listener donates $1 a week, I can make angels fart and Vestal virgins queef. Help me in the continued exploration of the fragments of a faith forgotten, and their secrets from the foundation of the world, which Jesus still holds, as I mentioned in the introduction in Matthew 13. And I mean the introduction to the show, not the introduction to Matthew 13, because it's number 13. Get it? Yes, something like that. And other than that, here are a few morsels on the topic of prayer. Prayer is not asking. It is a longing of the soul. It is daily admission of one's weaknesses. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart. Mahatma Gandhi. More tears are shed over answered prayers than unanswered ones. Mother Teresa. Pray as though everything depended on God. Work as though everything depended on you. Saint Augustine. Are nada, who art in nada, nada be thy name, thy kingdom nada, thy will be nada, in nada as it is in nada. Give us this nada, our daily nada, and nada us our nada, as we nada our nadas, and nada us not into nada, but deliver us from nada, pues nada. Hail nothing, full of nothing, nothing is with thee. And that's Ernest Hemingway. So in conclusion, and as always, we are the Gnostics, the veterans of 1,000 psychic wars who have set the controls to the heart of the sun. We are Johnny Cash Bodhisattvas, with one hand helping those who are lost in those dank alleys where the God in the gutter has not abandoned us, while with the other giving a finger to Jehovah and his angelic mafia. We are the existentialist Galahads riding through angry woods of CEOs and mullahs, searching for that holy grail that has always been inside our armor, has always been a teardrop of Hagia Sophia, the lost wisdom of God. Divided we stand, together we rise, and we won't get fooled again. I am Abraxas, broadcasting at the virtual Alexandria through the GodAboveGod.com. The road is ended. The song is over. Thought I'd have something more to say, but don't cultivate any troubles, my beloved truth seekers, because like heaven above you, the white wolf that stares down at you, I'm keeping all of your secrets safe with me tonight. Hello and goodbye as always.